So, artificial intelligence is getting unbelievably smart, right? It's everywhere. But here's a puzzle for you. Why are some of the world's top experts, doctors, lawyers, scientists, the very people you'd think would be jumping at this stuff, so hesitant to use it? That's what we're going to unpack today.
I mean, seriously, think about it. Why would a doctor say no thanks to a tool that could spot cancer earlier? Or why would a lawyer turn down a helper that can sift through 1,000 documents in a second? On the surface, it just doesn't seem to make any sense at all.
And look, the answer isn't what you might think. It's not some simple fear of new technology. It's something much, much deeper. It's a fundamental clash between how AI works and how these high-stakes professions absolutely have to work.
Okay, so this right here gets to the heart of the whole conflict. On one side, you've got AI logic. It is brilliant, absolutely brilliant, at finding patterns in data. But, and this is a huge but, it often has no idea why that pattern exists. Then on the other side, you've got research logic, the logic of science and law. And that world is all about showing your work. You can't just hand in the answer. You have to prove step by step how you got there.
And this brings us to the main character, or maybe the villain of our story, the black box. A black box AI is a system that gives you an answer, say a medical diagnosis or a legal recommendation, but its internal reasoning is completely hidden. It's a mystery. You can't see the process, you can't audit it, and for an expert, that's a total deal breaker.
Let's make this super real for a second. In medicine, a black box isn't just a frustrating piece of tech. It can be flat out dangerous. A doctor has to know why the AI came up with a diagnosis so they can create a treatment plan and, make sure the conclusion isn't based on some crazy mistake.
Yeah, and this quote right here just perfectly captures that fear. What if the AI isn't actually seeing the disease in an X-ray? What if it just figured out a weird shortcut, like noticing that all the X-rays that show pneumonia came from one specific machine in the hospital that has a tiny scratch on its lens? The AI gets the right answer, but for completely wrong and totally useless reason. It's relying on a data trick, not actual medical science.
So this whole thing creates two massive problems. First, you have these spurious correlations, these data tricks, which make the tool completely unreliable. And second, you have the giant question of liability. If an AI makes a fatal mistake, and you can't see why it made that mistake, who's responsible? The doctor who used it? The hospital? The person who coded it? Without that audit trail, the entire system of accountability that we rely on just completely falls apart.
And believe me, this isn't just a problem for doctors. Let's switch gears to the legal world. Here, a black box AI threatens the very foundation of the justice system, due process, because justice, by its very nature, requires justification.
This quote, it just hits the nail on the head for the legal side of things. If an AI is being used to recommend a prison sentence or to decide if someone gets parole, you have an absolute right to know why. If that system is making a life-altering judgment based on hidden variables, which could secretly be stand-ins for things like race or zip code, that's not justice. That's just automated bias.
I mean, think about it. In a courtroom, you have the right to face your accuser, to see the evidence against you, and to challenge it. But how in the world do you challenge an algorithm when its decision-making process is a corporate secret? The algorithm said so is not a legal argument. It's the opposite of one. It allows old biases from training data to get baked right in, creating a system that can't be held accountable.
So you're probably starting to see the pattern here, right? It's the same story across the board. In medicine, the core value at risk is safety. In law, it's justice. In science, it's discovery itself. I mean, an AI that just gives you the answer without the formula doesn't help us learn anything new. And in fields like the humanities, the core value is truth, which is a big problem when these models are known to just confidently make stuff up. In every single one of these fields, the core value is threatened when you can't see the work.
Okay, so now that we've laid out this huge, complicated problem, what's really interesting is that we can actually see a path forward by zooming way in on one specific field, qualitative research. This is the kind of research where people study human experiences, usually by doing things like interviews or focus groups.
See, in the research world, not all proof is created equal. If you're doing number-based, quantitative research, the gold standard is reproducibility. Can someone else run your math and get the exact same answer? But for interview-based, qualitative research, the gold standard is confirmability. That means, can you prove to someone that your conclusions came directly from the data you collected and aren't just your own biases and opinions?
And this is exactly where a standard AI just falls flat on its face.
A human researcher keeps incredibly detailed notes. It's basically a diary of their thought process, explaining why they interpreted a comment a certain way. Their personal bias is there, sure, but it's consistent and, most importantly, it's auditable. But a standard AI, it just spits out a category like resistance with zero explanation. Its internal logic is a mystery, and it's not even consistent. You could run the same data through it twice and get two different answers.
So, yeah, this all sounds pretty bad, doesn't it? It kind of feels like AI is just fundamentally at odds with the demands of serious research. But what if it doesn't have to be? What if, instead of just accepting this black box, we could actually pry it open and force it to show its work?
Well, this is where a really clever technique called a safety prompt comes into play. Instead of just asking the AI for a summary of themes, you give it a very strict, four-step recipe to follow. You command it to first, extract the exact quote from the text. Second, cite the line number where it found it. Third, assign a category or code. And fourth, and this is the absolute key, provide its reasoning. You are literally forcing it to create an audit trail.
Now, to make this whole thing work, there's a secret ingredient, a crucial technical trick. AI models have a setting called temperature, and you can think of it like a creativity dial. If you turn the temperature up, the AI gets more random, more poetic, more creative, which is great if you're writing a song. But for research, you want the exact opposite. So you crank that temperature dial all the way down to 0. This forces the AI to be as precise, deterministic, and predictable as possible.
Okay, so let's look at the before picture. Here's what you get with a standard, unsafe prompt. You ask for themes from an interview, and you get this vague list: work-life imbalance, lack of appreciation. This is a summary. It's not analysis. You can't verify it, you can't challenge it, and you definitely can't build a serious research paper on it.
But now, look at this. With the safety prompt, the output is a total game changer. For line 2, you see the exact quote, "The office is now in my kitchen." The AI proposes the code of physical integration, and then in the Y column, it explains that this highlights the spatial blurring of work and home. See the difference? Now you have the raw evidence, a specific interpretation, and the AI's reasoning, all laid out. The human researcher is completely back in the driver's seat.
So what this all means is that this simple little change in how you ask the question completely solves the core problems. It moves the AI from being a mysterious black box to a transparent tool. By forcing citation, it basically eliminates hallucinations or the AI making stuff up. By creating that reasoning log, it solves for confirmability. It turns a useless, vague summary into a verifiable, auditable piece of analysis.
And really, that's the big takeaway here. The resistance you see from these experts, it's not about banning AI or stopping progress. It's about demanding accountability. The path forward isn't to reject these incredibly powerful tools, but to tame them, to build methods and standards that force them to operate with the same level of transparency we would demand from any human expert.
So that leaves us with one last really big question. We've seen one clever method for one specific field, but what's it going to take to build this kind of verifiable, trustworthy AI across all the fields where it matters most, from the hospital to the courtroom? Because at the end of the day, for AI to truly earn our trust, it's not just about being powerful, it's about being understood.